Well, good morning, or whatever time of day you are watching this. Oh, turn that back on. This is Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. I am your host, Sir Chad Everett Broshears. Now, occurred to me on my way in to my job. Occurred to me that some people are so caught up in the minutia of surviving that it's hard to realize how to even realize where to start on putting your flag in the ground for your life. Uh-oh. Excuse me. Whoa! Oh, that was a monster. I get one. Okay. So, anyway. No, it just occurred to me that people don't know where to. Uh-oh. Nope, it's not one. It's coming. Oh! Just dab the keys. Jesus. Okay, hopefully that's it. Alright. Occurred to me that people don't know where to start. They don't realize that there's even a place to start. Because they're caught up in that minutia of survival. It's incredibly common. Like, people need to give themselves a little bit more of a break. For me, it's so much easier to look at life as a practice. I'm practicing. Like, I am practicing today to make tomorrow more effective, more efficient, more proficient. So whatever your goal is, and sometimes you don't know what your goal is, you just got to get out of your comfort zone and do things you haven't done before, or things you haven't done in a long time that have fallen away from what is your routine. So, getting involved in something. Just having conversations with people you haven't had before can be incredibly helpful, because they'll share things with you that you haven't experienced. And those things, the myriad of things that it could be. There's a lot of things. They may share, how they go to drag races, where they go off and, they're speeding cars down a quarter mile, and you've never done such a thing. They may, tell you about skydiving, going out and doing paintball or something, and all of whatever it is, like, oh, I haven't done it before. Well, get curiously engaged. Because if you get curiously engaged, you can get, an experience through the conversation that can end up trying it out. You'll envision yourself there, and the more they share with you about how they felt while they were there, the more real it becomes to you. Versus just the details about it, like, then we got the gun rental, and I put this vest on, and, this is why we did it, versus, I was running around, my heart was racing like crazy, and, like, as far as paintball goes, and, I thought I was a better aim than I was, so every time I would, shoot at people, I just see the ball flying through the air, and, you just start creating this experience. Now, you can curiously pull that out of people. What was it like at that moment? Versus, oh, that's cool. So you were there at 9 a.m. and then everybody got together, and then you guys got your equipment, right? It's like you flesh it out a little bit more. Now, by engaging with people like that, you create the experience that enrolls you and also them. Enrolls them in the value of their moment, and enrolls you in the potential of what you could do. Try it out. I have long been a fan of just taking a map, getting a dart, and throwing it at the map, and then go wherever that is. Of course, there's a lot of restrictions that have been imposed on my life, like financial restrictions, time restrictions, things like that. So if I give myself, okay, I've got 3 days I can go do something, and this is the range that's actually within reason of this distance to drive and experience something, or fly, or whatever. And then I'll take a map and keep that within range, so if it's a local map or whatever, and throw the dart at it and go wherever it says, With that, it puts you in a different place, out of your comfort zone, because you would not have gone there had otherwise. Otherwise. So it's just pushing you out of it. All of this is important when it comes to breaking patterns, so that you can start creating something that gives you more meaning in life. Doesn't have to be, for me, it doesn't have to be one thing, right? Right now we're talking about physically doing something different. Well, there's also thinking differently. There's a lot of things you can do, but it seems that whenever you start thinking differently, sometimes you don't give yourself as much value for the progress that you've made, as much as something that you can show you've done. So if you have to drive across the state to someplace you've never been before, well, you have a physical distance you traveled. You can look back at it and say, hey, I went there, I experienced this, and I drove over here. And you have the quantitative data to say you did something. But with the thinking side, most of the time, in my experience, people, they reduce the value of how far they've gone in the way that they think. At some point in time, it does change everything, and then you just realize that you just think differently than you ever have. So it's all valuable, because, again, if you want to break the patterns and create something more meaningful in life, you have to do something to make that happen. So thinking is one of the most essential pieces. It's just, again, it's just a lot of times we don't give ourselves a whole lot of credit for that. So just like my conversation I had about whenever I broke myself of social anxiety, the method that I used, it started in my thoughts, and then I did something physically to change my behavior, by putting myself into different scenarios and forcing myself to be exposed to it, exposure therapy. I wasn't aware of that, what it was at the time, but still, and it's problem solving and creating solutions to challenges. That's what I would like this episode to stand for in your life, is to create solutions to challenges, but do it in such a way that gets you playfully engaged. If you do something playfully, you're more likely to do it more often, because there's a reward of sensation of fun versus the work part of it. I personally like the work part of it, because I know that at some point in time I'm going to get the reward for that work, and I really enjoy doing that stuff, but I'm not encouraging everybody to do that right away. Of course, it's going to take something, but it's sometimes better to start off where you give yourself, rewards more regularly, to give you hey, this is positive correction, and it's worth my time. Because you're not just dealing with your conscious mind, you're dealing with your subconscious mind. I've spoken with somebody recently about the ego. She brought the ego up. If you followed my work, and when I put out online here and my other areas that I release information, you'll know that I don't chastise or bastardize the ego. I think that creates a scapegoat that gives people a pass for a specific behavior. My position on the ego is that it is more, let's understand it and mature it. And I look at the ego like an sometimes overzealous best friend trying to protect you. You do something that resonates on a low level for survival, could come across very harsh, very selfish, which it's supposed to. If it's on the low level of survival is all about me. It's very selfish. But if you chastise that, move away from it, hold behind shame and all the rest of this stuff, you're not likely going to ever address it. It reduces your effectiveness of addressing it versus owning it. And there's ways of doing that. You can own it, but only to deflect. Oh, yeah, no, that was me. And it's like, let's just get the pressure off me. Versus, I did that, and I'm working through understanding why I did it. And I'm making improvements so that I'm less likely to do it again in the future. That is embracing the fact that your ego is who you are, but it's the subconscious version that is like an overzealous friend trying to protect you. No. Back to creating that life is, you should have degrees of healthy selfish. You also, it is healthy to have, practicing things. You have routines. You don't want to completely dismiss your routines, because your routines are what has you surviving in place to where you currently are. And then you have to give yourself enough forgiveness to play, to try things on, get out of your comfort zone, to say, you know what, I'm practicing things. And it's okay to tell people, I'm only practicing. I don't know if I'm going to be any good at this. I'm trying. This is new to me. There's nothing wrong in telling people that. Actually, if you give them a very small idea of what you're up to, I'm practicing things to get better at them, because I want to make changes in my life that give me more value, that give me more satisfaction and meaning in my life. People are okay with that. I've never had anybody get upset about that. If ever somebody were to get upset about that, it's because they are stuck and they don't want you to be unstuck. And you can just be the person that, gives them direction at some point, inspiration. So, all right. Well, uh, try getting out of that area. Whatever it is that you're in, just do a little something different. Whatever it is. If you want to become, if you're like, hey, I wish I was smarter, find something you have interest in and start reading. It's not always about videos. Read, 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 read. Um, I've had people accuse me of being very articulate and having, expansive vocabulary. I don't think that I really don't feel that way. I just have an undying curiosity. But I read, and I love reading. It's a to me, it's such a rewarding experience. Unfortunately, I don't get to do as much as I want to now, just because my lifestyle is very busy at the moment. But I love reading, and I love sharing what I've learned. But I was accused by, actually, he's a good friend of mine, even though this story, this is actually the end of the episode here. But a good friend of mine, Chris, we were growing up, and whenever we were teenagers, he had told me that I had used the same word, I would say probably 3 times in a paragraph, in a very short conversation that we were having. And he's like, you need a dictionary. Oh, you don't sound smart at all. No, it's like, you need to read. Yeah, like, and I remember thinking to myself, ouch. Yeah, I always thought that I was at least interested and insightful enough to never be accused of not at least being, somewhat intelligent. And whenever he said that, I'm like, I was, obviously, ouch, insulted. But I started I'm like, you know what? I took it to heart, but I took it to heart not in a, you bastard type of way. I took it to heart as, let me do something about this. Let me make some changes. So I just started reading. Now, I know plenty of people in my world that are far more articulate than I am. They're very well spoken. But I started making changes to at least not have that accusation come back around. But I didn't do it just for the avoidance of embarrassment. I did it more of that, the utility of language. You want to be able to get, effective communication in such a way that people understand you better from every interaction. So that's why I did it. And that's what I encourage you to do. It doesn't matter where it is. You can go to the fun range. Depends on what's most important to you. For me, communication is incredibly important, so I put a lot of emphasis on that. So, all right, well, end of the episode. I need to get to my appointment. Wish me luck. I am coming back from a minor hamstring injury, and yeah, we'll see how this works out today. I have missed my morning workouts, so I'm hopeful that the hamstring is good to go, and I'll be able to enjoy this. So change the patterns slowly, change your patterns somewhat often, and you'll find that you have more meaning, more joy, and more reward in life. So, all right, well, this is not an easy process. This is well worth it, though. Sometimes it's very challenging, it's sticky, but what better thing can we do than to have a life that's powerful, something that's meaningful, and something that leaves a desirable impact on others? So let's get up to something. Get up to something and get up to something with me. Let's create that life you want. All right. Till next time, this is your host, Sir Chad Everett Broshears, and this is Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia. See ya. Oh, yeah. By the way, it is Christmas Eve. So Merry Christmas Eve to you. And whatever your religious or non religious celebrations are, be with your family, be with love. Enjoy. See you next time.